understand what you're saying. And he said, America is almost in the same place because the people who died several years ago in Zimbabwe saw Zimbabwe as the great breadbasket of Africa and knew it as a great breadbasket and the supplier of food and jobs and resources for Africa. The same with the people who have died beyond what we as of Americans experience today. He goes, the children that are born into poverty, that's all they know is begging on the streets. They know nothing else. It's our generation that will see the great fall and have seen the fall that happened in Zimbabwe, that if we don't stand up and act, we will see fall in the great United States of America. And it takes people like you to get involved. There was a guy here named Tim Knight who was part of the Colorado recall. Colorado recall has got a Democratic legislature and a Democratic governor, no different than the state of California. When they infringed on their Second Amendment rights, they went out, gathered signatures, and they recalled them and sent a message to a Democratic legislature that said, enough is enough. You will not take from us what God has given us in a constitutional privileges or the rights that we enjoy every day. And that's what we need in California, because there are two seats, the Fox seat and the Waso seat, that are infringing along with a lot of other individuals that they're on our Second Amendment rights, and we need to stand up and say, I'm done. No more. This is my country. This is my state, and we have a purpose and a place to stand up and fight. And I am so honored and so blessed to be a part of this organization that is here today at the Tea Party, and also to be able to see every one of you in this room that's standing up for what is right, for the freedoms and liberties that we as citizens of the great United States of America deserve. And as the first female veteran that's ever served on that assembly floor, I will continue to fight for you every time I open my mouth.
Can we like that? Can we like that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to have time for questions and answer. Next, I've got my good friend Jeannie Rapini. Jeannie, would you tell us a little bit about what's going on and about the Tea Party movement in NorCal?
Did you want to hear about the IRS?
Oh, can we hear about the IRS? Can we do it without?
You know what's interesting about this IRS deal is that it's getting better and better. You're not hearing about it so much in the news, but last week I was on the phone with our attorneys, and he's kind of salivating at some of the discovery that we have had in finding out through actual evidential procession that we were personally targeted as well, not just with the IRS, but the IRS actually communicated to the State Franchise Tax Board. And so let me tell you, you know, we did finally get our nonprofit status. It took almost 3 years to get that. And it was because I contacted our Congressman, Tom McClintock, and he gave an impassioned speech on the floor of the House of Representatives well over 2 years ago. So Boehner and everybody knew about the IRS long before it actually came to the committee. And then he sent a scathing letter to the IRS documenting the areas of the constitutional violations on our part, and 3 weeks later I finally get a phone call saying, you know what, we've decided to approve you, and you sent an awful lot of information and I had to read it all. I said, I only sent what you asked, and I hope you read the Constitution that was included in there. Well, after that, however, that wasn't enough. Normally, once you get your letter from the IRS, it is a rubber stamp that you get it from the State Franchise Tax Board then.
Yep, right.
No, it took me a year. It took 4 revisions of reapplying. And every time you do that, you had to resubmit. It was another $30, another $30, another $30, until finally we said, we are the chief plaintiff in the class action lawsuit against the IRS. Would you like to be mentioned as well? So we got it. But the one thing that I want to, and I want you to know that while you don't see it in the news, it is moving forward. And we will make an impact with that lousy organization that is tyrannical. I mean, when they can sick the IRS on Ben Carson because he insults the President of the United States, and the next day he's visited by 3 IRS agents and costing him a fortune to be able to prove that he had every T crossed and every I dotted. That is tyranny. And we need not stand for that. And Dingy Harry can call us anarchists all he wants. then I'm a proud anarchist to save this country and this state.
Amen.
What I want to tell you as Tea Partiers is don't let the negative talk get you down. Don't think that you aren't effective. It's because they're talking about us like that we know we're effective. And you can encourage people and motivate people just by your leadership. You're staying involved. You're staying excited. You're being committed. I don't know about you, but for me, this has been a calling of God. And I've had no choice but to do this. And I know that I look at that mountain and I think we will never reach the summit on this. And God just speaks to me in that ever so soft voice. The results aren't up to you. You're called to do a job and do it.
Amen.
And that is all we're called to do.
Amen.
We're called to save this country, to save this state, to stand for truth, to stand for liberty, to stand for freedom, and to not compromise under any circumstances. What part of your integrity will you compromise on? None. And we can't either. I want to encourage every single one of you. I am so encouraged to be here. I am honored to be here. I have no idea why they asked me to speak except the IRS story. It has to be fun. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Next, I'd like for you to take a couple of minutes. My good friend Steve Brandow. Steve and I met about 2.5 years ago, and we started looking at some of the things that could happen in our United States and in the California Republic. And we talked about a lot of different activities about Tea Parties, and I want to give Steve a couple of minutes to talk about some of the things that you've been doing. Took over the Central Committee of your county, took over as the city council member, and I'd like for you to talk about that for a few minutes.
Thanks, Woody. I appreciate that. I don't appreciate you cut down my time. Yes, you do, and we like that. So I'm going to move really quickly. I've been asked to talk about a Tea Party, the Central Valley Tea Party, which I'm the head coordinator for. We have 10 operating chapters in the Central Valley, and we do a great job throughout the valley, letting our people know who's a strong conservative, vetting candidates, this type of thing. And we're getting even stronger as the months roll along. I started, as many of you did, in the Tea Party 4.5 years ago. I looked a little bit like Joe the plumber. I had a small business. So in Fresno, I became known as Steve the carpet cleaner. And I was introduced at a lot of Tea Party functions as Steve the carpet cleaner. I have a carpet cleaning company. But thanks to the hard work of the Tea Party, Women's Federated, a lot of overlap between strong conservatives, last November, I won election to Fresno City Council. Now, I'm just one of 7 people, and I can't quite take over the council, just being one of 7, but at least I can get a strong conservative voice on the city council and hold strong. Like Shannon said, hold strong on the right end. And so that's what I can do on Fresno City Council. That's the benefit of running Tea Party candidates at your local level. And I want to encourage every one of you to consider running. If you're not the person, think of somebody else and support them. That would be a great thing. I wanted to talk a few minutes before I talk about Central Valley Tea Party a little bit about what is going on this weekend, just from my own thoughts. One of the first things I did, I was here less than a half hour. I brought $200 with me. I spent the first $60 on this picture. My city council office right now, Liz could tell you the walls are bare, and this will be the first painting that goes on the walls of my office. And so, 30 minutes ago, we met Barry Goldwater Jr., and I'm going to tell him a little story, and it's why we're all here today. And also, let me prep you. She knows, these two know. Have you ever seen a grown man like me cry? Just brace yourself. But in 1960, Barry Goldwater wrote a book called The Conscience of a Conservative. Exactly, thank you. What happens when you give a guy a microphone, his brain starts slipping. But in 1960, Barry Goldwater wrote a book, The Conscience of a Conservative. A lot of people think that it was ghost-written by Brent Bozell, who was working for William F. Buckley, Jr. And Barry Goldwater captured the hearts and minds of many people in the state of California and throughout the country. And he ran ineffectively to become president of the United States. And many people attacked Barry Goldwater viciously from within the party. And he didn't quite realize what his goal was. However, he paved the way for this guy. But it was 20 years later. The book was written in 1960 and 1980 after 4 miserable years under Jimmy Carter. Ronald Reagan became president of the United States of America. I got to vote for my very first vote for president was in his second term, and so I'm very proud of that. And I've voted Republican ever since, to be honest with you, despite the downfalls of the Republican Party. So, but the truth is, why I brought that up is, we are in that same position today. We are following the tragedy of Jimmy Carter.
Amen.
In our nation, in our state, we are looking for the next Ronald Reagan. Now, it could be the next Ronald Reagan is an individual, and I'd be glad if it was. But I actually believe maybe the next Ronald Reagan is a movement of people. And I think that's
Amen.
the Reagan Revolution Part 2.
Amen.
And I think that's what we in this room stand for. In our party, and I just said I've never voted non-Republican. I haven't found a Democrat yet worthy. But I'll tell you what, in our party, we are the conscience of conservatism. And I would like to invite everybody in this room, maybe you identify primarily as a Tea Party. Maybe you're a CRA member. Maybe you're a Young Republican for Liberty. Maybe you are part of Women's Federated. These are all conservative organizations, supposed to be conservative organizations. We're asking you to join with the Tea Party Caucus in the state of California to help take our party back. Amen?
Amen.